Well, today I have with me Brenda Carroll Jarvis. Brenda Carroll Jarvis is an author. She's also a singer. She's also a poetess. She's also just a very busy Christian woman who has some interesting writings out there, and we'd like to share some of that today with you as we talk about her first book, The Biblical Women of Influence, which was published last fall. It's sold several copies so far, and the comments that are coming in about it are just great. Basically saying that Brenda's descriptive work in her writings transform people into the setting that occurred, 2,000 years ago. That people feel like they're right there when these women are doing what they did to influence history. So, Brenda, welcome and good morning.
Good morning. I'm excited.
Good. Tell me a little bit about the inspiration for your book. How did you come about writing a book about influential women in the Bible?
As I studied the Bible over and over again, I was um, realizing the involvement of women in the whole process of evangelism and their life's testimony. There's women that have been influential all throughout, from the Old Testament clear through to the New. The first story that really spoke to me in that capacity was the woman with the issue of blood. I remember reading it and studying it, and it just began to speak to me about her strength and her courage in the midst of her own illness.
Sure. Well, I think you have 10 very, very interesting stories in your book. And I'd like for you just to kind of give us a brief synopsis of each of those 10 stories.
Well, there's Lydia, who was a seller of purple. She was an important person in Paul's ministry in this city of Philippi. She facilitated that ministry for Paul, and it became the headquarters for him. There's the woman with the issue of blood, who was a courageous woman to walk into a crowd. I won't spoil it for you, but it's very powerful. There's the daughters of Shalom. They were the only women, female, to participate in the rebuilding of the wall around Jerusalem in the era of Nehemiah. There's Deborah, who was a judge, and she was the only female judge, and she confronted the general of Israel for not obeying God's call to go and be in battle with the army of Sisera. She's a pretty feisty woman. Then there's Jesus, who was anointed by a sinful woman. It shows that everybody was drawn to Jesus, and Jesus was open to speak with everyone. And it's the relationship that the sinful woman had with Jesus about seeing her need and how she went to him. And then the mother of Moses, Jochebed, and how she handled just what God was calling her to do with baby Moses and her faith. Then there's Noah's wife, who didn't even get a first name, but she was a very important role, as there was just one family that was going to be called to the ark because everyone else wasn't willing to let go of their unrighteous life. There was the old midwife who disobeyed the Pharaoh. That was a challenge. She was an Egyptian woman, yet because of her, many little baby boy Israelites were born. There's the widow and her two mites and her faith in the Lord for her very sustenance and her ability to survive. She trusted God for everything. Then one of the very familiar story is the woman at the well, the Samaritan woman, and just how she encountered Jesus and what it did to her and how it influenced her city.
Can you show your book? The cover of your book? It actually is the cover that depicts the woman at the well, and it's a very nice little book. 100 and how many pages? I forgot.
36.
136 pages, but they're very in-depth dramatization of those 10 stories that she just highlighted for you. Tell me a little bit, if you will, about how you picture these scenes that you get. that you describe in your book so eloquently?
Well, first of all, I try to find as much research on the area, the history, biblical references. I read different versions of the Bible, whether it's in different languages, as far as newer and modern English. And then I sit and pray. And I pray until the Lord shows me a picture of what I'm writing about. And then I begin to write what I see. And sometimes it's very emotional for me as I am writing, because I begin to feel what it must have been like at that time. I try to make it as real and factual and appropriate for the era as much as I can find out.
Can you share with us a brief snippet of one of your chapters?
One of my favorites is Deborah, because she's got a lot of personality, I think. And this is set when she's out judging, but yet she realizes that she needs to call the general of the Israel army. So she sends somebody out to go get Barak, was his name. It says the guard promptly communicated her order to the people that were waiting to be heard, because she wasn't going to listen to any more disputes. The servant Magdiel quickly obeyed Deborah's command and found Barak at his home. He returned with Barak before sunset. Barak was dressed in his military clothing. His white tunic was decorated with colorful threads around the collar, down the front, and around the sleeves and hem. The band about his head matched the colorful threads of the tunic. Leather bands strapped around his wrist up to his elbow to polish embellishment on his forearms. The same embellishments were also on his sandals. Deborah noticed that his feet were soft and clean as his hands. Colorfully beaded leather sheath held his sword that was belted at his side. His hands bore a large ring on each index finger. Barak's tunic billowed with his quick steps as he entered Deborah's court. Several officers followed closely. He did not hide his irritation at being summoned by Deborah. Deborah motioned for the servant and his officers to leave. The officers looked to Barak for orders. He nodded, permitting them to exit. Barak walked over to the empty court platform where Deborah stood. She kept her back to him as he approached her. His aggravation increased when Deborah did not greet him. After all, he was Barak, the military leader of all of Israel. Barak spoke with authority and exasperation. You summoned me? I'm the military leader of Israel, and I don't have time for trivial issues. Why have you called me? Still, Deborah looked over the valley with her back to him. She could see the homes reflecting the beauty of the setting sun, and she stood with her arms crossed, trying to control her anger. Deborah, not turning, challenged Barak by saying, hasn't the Lord God of Israel commanded you to Mount Tabor and take 10,000 fighting men from the tribes of Naphtali and Zebulun? She continued firmly, didn't the Lord God tell you that he would lure the commander Sisera of Jabin's army with his chariots to Kadesh River and give him into your hands? Oh, Barak stroked his beard, trying to hide his surprise that she knew this. Well, yes, he stammered, and then cleared his throat. However, as a military leader, I believe that we should just try not to cause trouble. It would be better for us. You must understand, the army of King Jabin is great and powerful. Sisera has 900 chariots. Barak's face displayed a mixture of fear and anger. 900, he declared. Deborah turned to him, her face flushed by his response. However, she remained quiet as he continued to speak. Barak, thinking of a plan to avoid the battle, hid it with a slight smirk and said defiantly, well, Deborah, he was dragging out her last name, if you go with me, then I'll go. Barack boldly declared. But if you do not go with me, then I won't go.
Very interesting and very well done. How does one find your book, and where can they order it if they'd like, and what's the price?
Well, you can order my book on my website at brendavotions.com. brendavotions.com.
And the book
Or
is
you
really
could write me.
right. The book is really sent to you as a gift for a donation for our ministry, right?
That is correct. It's donation. And if you the book is priced at $16.99 or for a donation. And if you order it in bulk, of course, there is we're able to give a better price for the bulk order. But you can find it at brendavotions.com.
Spell that.
BRENDAVOTIONS.
Brenda
It's a
Votion.
play on words.
It is.
Brenda Votions.
And I also want what else is on the website that they might be interested in?
Well, on the website, it has various things where I've been at different places and given messages. There's videos of that. I have a blog page where I just put out my ideas. Maybe sometimes I have something that's kind of stirring in my heart, and I just put that on the blog page. There are other books that are available at that site as well.
Well, you have a
And
new book coming out, right?
I do. It's called When My Heart Sings.
Yeah.
It's a book of poetry and different writings that it's a compilation of different things that I've written over the past 14 years. And there's also a book called It Happened in Bethlehem. It's a Christmas story.
And that's a Christmas story that is about how a child went with the shepherds to see the baby Jesus. Very interesting stuff, Brenda. Thank you so much for being with us today. Remember, you can go to her website, Brenda Votions, BRENDAVOTIONS.com, and find her. You can also just Google her name, and you'll find stuff about Brenda Carroll Jarvis. Thank you for listening, and we intend to soon make another announcement about a new book for Brenda that hasn't been published yet, but will be in the next several months. So please look for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.